last video we ended with the news that Andie Bell and her father, Jason Bell, didn't get along very well. And we discovered that during the police interviews, he was acting very, very strangely. So, is he one of our top suspects? I think so. As well as that news reporter that was very, very racist and nasty towards Sal. So, I think we should get started with chapter 5 and see what happens, don't you? Okay, here we go. Chapter 5. Something felt a little off, like the air in the room was stale and slowly thickening until she was breathing it down in giant gelatinous clots. In all her years knowing it had never felt quite like this. Pip gave Naomi a reassuring smile and made a passing joke about the amount of Barney dog fluff attached to her leggings. Naomi smiled weakly, running her hands through her flicky ombre blonde hair. They were sitting in Elliot Ward's study, Pip on the swivelling desk chair and Naomi across from her in the oxblood leather armchair. Naomi wasn't looking at Pip. She was staring instead at 3 paintings on the far wall, 3 giant canvases of the family immortalized forever in rainbow-tinted strokes. Her parents walking in the autumn woods, Elliot drinking from a steaming mug, and young Naomi and Cara on a swing. Their mum had painted them when she was dying, her final mark upon the world. Pip knew how important these paintings were to the Wards, how they looked to them in their happiest and saddest times. Although she remembered there used to be a couple more displayed in here too. Maybe Elliot was keeping them in storage to give them to the girls when they grew up and moved out. Pip knew Naomi had been going to therapy since her mum died 7 years ago, and that she had managed to wade through her anxiety, neck just above the water, to graduate from university. But a few months ago she had a panic attack at her new job in London and quit to move back in with her dad and sister. Naomi was fragile, and Pip was trying her hardest not to tread on any cracks. In the corner of her eye she could see the ever-scrolling timer of her voice recorder app. "So, can you tell me what you were doing at Max's that night?" she said gently. Naomi shifted, eyes moving down to circle her knees. We were just like drinking, talking, playing some Xbox, nothing too exciting. And taking pictures. There's a few on Facebook from that night. Yeah, taking silly pictures, just messing around really, Naomi said. There aren't any pictures of Sal from that night though. No, well, I guess he had left before we started taking them. And Sal was acting strangely before he left, said Pip. I don't think he was really. Did he talk about Andie at all? Yeah, maybe a bit. Naomi shuffled in her seat, and the leather made a loud rumbling sound as she unstuck herself from it. Something Pip's little brother would have found very funny, and under other circumstances she might have too. What did he say about her? Pip asked. Naomi paused for a moment, picking up a ripped cuticle by her thumb. I think maybe these fights about? Like the stupidest things, like him not texting her back quick enough, things like that. I never said it to him, but I always thought Andie was trouble. If I had said something, I don't know, maybe everything would have turned out differently. Looking at Naomi's downcast face and the telling tremble of her upper lip, Pip knew she needed to bring them up from this particular rabbit hole before Naomi closed up entirely. Had Sal said at any point in the evening that he would be leaving early? No, he didn't. And what time did he leave Max's? We're pretty sure it was close to 10:30. And did he say anything before he left? Naomi shuffled and closed her eyes for a moment, the lids pressed so tightly that Pip could see them vibrating. Even from across the room. Yeah, she said. He just said he wasn't really feeling it, and he was going to walk home and get an early night. And what time did you leave Max's? I didn't. Me and Minnie stayed over in the spare room. Dad came and got me in the morning. What time did you go to bed? I think it was a bit before 12:30. Not really sure. There was a sudden dread of knocks on the study door, and Cara poked her head in, squeaking when her messy top knot got caught on the frame. Buckle off, I'm recording, Pip said. Sorry, emergency, 2 secs. Cara said, lingering as a floating head. Nye, where the hell have all those Jammy Dodger biscuits gone? I don't know. I literally saw Dad unpack a full packet yesterday. Where have they gone? I don't know. Ask him. He's not back yet. Cara, Pip said, raising her eyebrows. Yep, sorry, buggering off, she said, unhooking her hair and closing the door behind her again. Okay, Pip said, trying to recover their lost tangent. So, when did you first hear that Andie was missing? I think Sal texted me yesterday, maybe late morning-ish. And what were your initial thoughts about where she might be? I don't know. Naomi shrugged. Pip wasn't sure she'd ever seen her shrug before. Andie was the kind of girl who knew lots of people. I guess I thought she was hanging out with some other friends we didn't know, not wanting to be found. Pip took a preparatory deep breath, glancing at her notes. She needed to handle the next question carefully. Can you tell me about when Sal asked you to lie to the police about what time he left Max's? Naomi tried to speak, but she couldn't seem to find the words. A strange underwater silence mushroomed in the small space. Pip's ears ran with the weight of it. Naomi finally said, her voice breaking a little. We went around on Saturday evening to see how he was doing, and we were all talking about what happened, and Sal said he was nervous because the police had already been asking him questions. Because he was her boyfriend, he thought he was going to be the target. So he just said, did we mind saying he left Max's a little later than he did, like 12:15-ish, so the police would stop looking at him and actually concentrate on finding Andie. It didn't seem wrong to me at the time. I just thought he was trying to be sensible and help get Andie back quicker. And did he tell you where he was between 10:30 and 12:50? I can't remember. No, maybe he didn't. Didn't you ask? Didn't you want to know? I can't Sorry, she sniffed. That's okay. Pip realised she leaned right forward with her last question. She shuffled her notes and sat back again. So the police called you on the Sunday, didn't they? And you told them that Sal left Max's at 12:15. Yeah. So why did you four change your mind and decide to tell the police on Tuesday about Sal's false alibi? I think it's because we'd had some time to think about it, and we knew we could get in trouble for lying. None of us thought Sal was involved in what happened to Andie, so we didn't see the problem in telling the police the truth. Had you discussed with the other three that that's what you were going to do? Yeah, we called each other on the Monday night and agreed. But you didn't tell Sal that you were going to talk to the police. She said, her hands racing through her hair again. No, we didn't want him to be upset with us. Okay, last question. Pip watched as Naomi's face ironed out with evident relief. Do you think Sal killed Andie that night? Not the Sal I knew, she said. He was the best, the nicest person, always cheeky and making people laugh. And he was so nice to Andie too, even though she maybe didn't deserve it. So I don't know what happened or if he did it, but I don't want to believe he did. Okay, then, Pip smiled, pressing the stop button on her phone. Thanks so much for doing that, Naomi. I know it's not easy. That's okay. She nodded and stood up from the chair, the leather squeaking against her legs. Wait, one more thing, Pip said. Are Max, Jake and Minnie around to be interviewed? Oh, Minnie's off the grid travelling around Australia, and Jake's living with his girlfriend down in Devon. They just had a baby. Max is in Kilton though. He just finished his masters and is back applying for jobs like me. Do you think he'd mind giving me a short interview? Pip said. I'll give you his number and you can ask him. Naomi held the study door open for her. In the kitchen they found Cara trying to fit 2 pieces of toast in her mouth simultaneously, and had just returned Elliot in an eyesore pastel yellow shirt, wiping down the kitchen surfaces. He turned when he heard them come in, the ceiling lights picking up small wisps of grey in his brown hair and flashing across his thick-rimmed glasses. You done, girls? He smiled kindly. Excellent timing. I've just popped the kettle on. Production log entry 7. Just got back from Max Hastings' house. It felt strange being there, like walking through some kind of crime scene. Reconstruction, it looks just the same as it does in those Facebook photos Naomi and Co took at that fateful night 5 years ago. The night that forever changed this town. Max still looks the same too. Tall, blonde, floppy hair, mouth slightly too wide for his angular face, somewhat pretentious. He said he remembered me though, which was nice. After speaking to him, I don't know. I can't help but think something's going on here. Either one of Sal's friends is misremembering about that night, or one of them is lying. But why? Transcript of interview with Max Hastings. Pip. Alright, recording. So, Max, you're 23, right? Max, Ron, actually, I'm 25 in about a month. Pip. Oh. Max. Yeah, when I was 7, I had leukemia and missed loads of school, so I got held back a year. I know, I'm a miracle boy. Pip. I had no idea. Max. You can have my autograph later. Pip. Okay, so jumping straight in, can you describe what Sal and Andie's relationship all throwing messy house parties and calling them calamities. That's so cool. I feel like a god. Do they still do the next host triathlon bit? Pip, I've never been. Anyway, did you know Andie before she started a relationship with Sal? Max, yeah, a bit. Max, yeah, a bit from school and calamities. We sometimes spoke, yeah, but we weren't ever like friends. I didn't really know her. Like an acquaintance. Pip, okay, so on Friday the 20th of April, when everyone was at your house, do you remember if Sal was acting strangely? Max, not really, maybe a little quiet if anything. Pip, did you wonder why at the time? Max, nope, I was pretty drunk. Pip, and that night, did Sal talk about Andie at all? Max, no, he didn't mention her once. Pip, he didn't say they were having a disagreement at the time, or... Max, no, he just didn't bring her up. Pip, how well do you remember that night? Max, I remember all of it. Spent most of it playing Jake and Minnie on Call of Duty. I remember because Minnie was going on about equality and stuff. And then she didn't win once. It was after Sal left. Max, yeah, he left really early. Pip, where was Naomi when you were playing video games? Max, MIA. Pip, missing. She wasn't there. Max, no. She went upstairs for a while. Pip, by herself, doing what? Max, I don't know. Taking a nap, taking a dump, fuck knows. Pip, for how long? Max, I don't remember. Pip, okay. And when Sal left, what did he say? Max, he didn't really. He just slipped out quietly. I didn't really notice him going at all. Pip, so the next evening, after you'd all learned that Andie was missing, you went round to see Sal? Max, yeah, 'cause we figured he would be pretty bummed out. Pip, and how did he ask you all to go and lie and give him an alibi? Max, he just came out and said it was looking bad for him and asked if we could help out and just change the times a bit. It wasn't a biggie. He didn't phrase it like, give me an alibi. That's not how it was. It was just a favour for a friend. Pip, did you think Sal killed Andie? Max, he had to have done it, didn't he? I mean, if you're asking if I thought my friend was capable of murder, the answer would be no way. He was like this sweet little agony aunt, but he did it because, you know, the blood and stuff, and the only way that Sal would ever kill himself, I think, is if he'd done something really bad, so it all fits, unfortunately. Pip, okay, thanks, those are all my questions. There are some inconsistencies between their two versions of events. Naomi said that Sal did talk about Andie and told all his friends they were having a disagreement. Max says he didn't mention her once. Naomi says Sal told everyone that he was heading home early because he wasn't feeling well. Max said he slipped out quietly. Of course, I am asking them to remember a night over 5 years ago. Certain lapses in memory are to be expected, but then there's this thing Max said that Naomi was MIA, though he said he didn't remember how long Naomi was gone for. He had just before indicated that he spent most of the night with Minnie and Jake, and for that particular activity Naomi wasn't there. Let's just say I can infer that she was upstairs for at least an hour, but why? Why would she be upstairs alone at Max's house instead of with her friends, unless Max just accidentally told me that Naomi left the house for a period of time that night and he's trying to cover for her? I can't believe I'm actually going to type this, but I'm starting to suspect that Naomi could have had something to do with Andie. I've known her 11 years. I've lived almost my whole life looking up to her as a big sister, so I might learn how to be one too. Naomi's kind, the sort of person who'd give you an encouraging smile when you're mid-story and everyone else has stopped listening. She's mild-tempered, she's delicate, calm, but could she be unstable? Is it in her to be violent? I don't know, I'm getting ahead of myself, but there's also what Ravi said, that he thought Naomi was in love with his brother. It's pretty clear from her answers too that she didn't particularly like Andie, and her interview, it was just so awkward, so tense. I know I was asking her to relive some bad memories, but the same goes for Max, and his was a breeze. Then again, Max's interview was too easy. Was he just a bit too aloof? I don't know what to think, but I can't help it. My imagination just threw off its leash and stuck its middle finger up at me. I'm now picturing a scene. Naomi kills Andie in a jealous rage. Sal stumbles across the scene, confounded and distraught. His best friend has killed his girlfriend, but he still cares for Naomi, so he helps her dispose of Andie's body, and they agree to never speak of it, but he can't hide from the terrible guilt of what he had helped conceal. The only escape he can think of is death, or maybe I'm making a something out of a nothing. Most likely, either way, I think she has to go on the list. I need a break. Persons of interest. Persons of interest, Jason Bell and Naomi Ward. Chapter 6. Okay, so now we just need frozen peas, tomatoes and thread. Pip's mum said, holding the shopping list out at arm's length so she could decipher Victor's scribbles. That says bread, said Pip. Oh yes, you're right. Leanne giggled. That could have made for some interesting sandwiches this week. Glasses. Pip pulled a packaged loaf off the shelf and chucked it in the basket. Nope, I'm not admitting defeat yet. Glasses made me look old, Leanne said, opening the freezer section. That's okay, you are old, said Pip, for which she received a cold whack on the arm with a bag of frozen peas. As she dramatically feigned her dismay to the fatal pea wound, she caught sight of him watching her, dressed in a white t-shirt and jeans, laughing quietly into the back of his hand. Ravi, she said, crossing the aisle over to him. Hi. Hi, he smiled, scratching the back of his head, just as she thought he might. I've never seen you in here before. Here was Little Kilton's only supermarket, pocket-sized and tucked in by the main train station. Yeah, we usually shop out of town, he said, but milk emergency. He held up a vat-sized bottle of semi-skimmed. Well, if only you had your tea black. I'll never cross to the dark side, he said, looking up. Bim's mum came over with her filled basket. He smiled at her. Oh, Mum, this is Ravi, Pip said. Ravi, my mum, Leanne. Nice to meet Something hot and primal stirred in Pip's guts, something that in its infant stages felt like nausea, but it kept swelling and boiling until it even reached her ears. £1.48, the lady spat. Ravi pulled out a £5 note, but when he tried to give her the money, she shuddered and withdrew her hand sharply. The note fell in an autumnal glide to the floor, and Pip ignited. "Hey," she said loudly, marching over to stand beside Ravi. "Do you have a problem?" "Pip, don't," Ravi said quietly. "Excuse me, Leslie," Pip read out snidely from her name tag. "I asked if you had a problem." "Yeah," the woman said. "I don't want him touching me." "I think it's safe to say he doesn't want you touching him either." Leslie's stupidity might be catching. "I'm going to call my manager." "Yeah, you do that. I'll give them a sneak peek of the complaint emails I'll drown your head office in." Ravi put the £5 note down on the counter, picked up his milk and strode silently towards the exit. "Ravi," Pip called, but he ignored her. "Whoa," Pip's mum stepped forward now. "Ravi," Pip called, but he ignored her. "Whoa," Pip's mum stepped forward now, hands up in the surrender position, as she came to stand between Pip and the reddening Leslie. Pip turned on her heels, trainers screaming against the over-polished floor. Just before she reached the door, she called back. Oh, but Leslie, you should really see someone about getting that arsehole removed from your face." Outside, she could see Ravi 30 feet away, pacing quickly down the hill. Pip, who didn't run for anything, ran to catch him. Are you okay?" she said, stepping in front of him. "No," he carried on around her, the giant milk bottle sloshing at his side. "Did I do something wrong?" Ravi turned, dark eyes flashing. He said, "Look, I don't need some kid I hardly know fighting my battles for me. I'm not your problem, Pippa. Don't try to make me your problem. You're only going to make things worse." He kept walking, and Pippa watched him go until the shade from a cafe awning dimmed and took him away. Standing there, breathing hard, she felt the rage retreat back in her gut, where it slowly simmered out. She was hollow when it left her. Production log entry 8. Let it never be said that Pippa Fitz-Amobi is not an opportunistic interviewer. I was at Cara's house again today with Lauren. The boys joined us later too, though they insisted the football be on in the background. Cara's dad, Elliot, was chattering on about something when I remembered he knew Sal pretty well. Not just as his daughter's friend, but as Sal's teacher. I've already got character assessments from Sal's friends and brother, his generational peers, I might say. But I thought maybe Cara's dad would have some further adult insights. Elliot agreed to it. I didn't give him much choice. Transcript of interview with Elliot Ward. Pip. So, for how many years had you taught Sal? Elliot. Let's see. I started teaching at Kilton Grammar School in 2009. Salil was in one of the first GCSE classes I took, so almost 3 full years, I think. Yeah. Pip. So Sal took history for GCSE. nice offer from them too. When Naomi told me, I bought him a card and some chocolate. So Sal was very intelligent. Elliot, oh, absolutely, yeah. Very, very smart young man. It's such a tragedy what happened in the end. Such a waste of 2 young lives. Sal would have got A stars across the board, no question. Pip, did you have a class with Sal on that Monday after Andie disappeared? Elliot, gosh, I think so actually, yes, because I remember talking to him after and asking if he was okay about everything. So yes, I must have done. Pip, and did you notice him actually acting strangely at all? Elliot, well, it depends on your definition of strange. The whole school was acting strangely that day. One of our students was missing, and it was all over the news. I suppose I remember him seeming quiet, maybe a little tearful about the whole thing. Definitely seemed worried. Pip, worried for Andie. Elliot, yes, probably. Possibly. Pip, and what about on the Tuesday, the day he killed himself? Do you remember seeing him at school that morning at any point? Elliot, no, I didn't, because on that day I had to call in sick. I had a bug, so I dropped the girls off in the morning and had a day at home. I didn't know until the school ran me in the afternoon about this whole Naomi/Sal alibi thing, and that the police had interviewed them at school. So the last time I saw Sal would have been that Monday lesson time. Pip, and do you think Sal killed Andie? Elliot, sighs. Elliot, I mean, I could understand how easy it is to convince yourself he didn't. He was such a lovely kid, but considering the evidence, I don't see how he couldn't have done it. So as wrong as it feels, I guess, I think he must have. There's no other explanation. Pip, and what about Andie Bell? Did you teach her too? Elliot, no. Well, yes. She was in the same GCSE history class as Sal, so I had her that year, but she didn't really study history any further, so I'm afraid I didn't really know her that well. Pip, okay, thanks. You can go back to peeling potatoes now. Elliot, thanks for your permission. Ravi hadn't mentioned that Sal had an offer from Oxford University. There might be more he hasn't told me about Sal, but I'm not sure Ravi will ever speak to me again, not after what happened a couple of days ago. I didn't mean to hurt him, I was trying to help. Maybe I should go around and apologise. He'll probably just slam the door on me, but anyway, I can't let that distract me, not again. If Sal was so intelligent and Oxford bound, then why was the evidence that linked him to Andie's murder so obvious? So what if he didn't have an alibi for the time of Andie's disappearance? He was clever enough to have got away with it, that much is clear now. P.S. We were playing Monopoly with Naomi and maybe I overreacted before. She's still on the persons of interest list, but a murderer. There's just no way. She refuses to put houses down on the board, even when she has the 2 dark blues, because she thinks it's too mean. I hotel up as soon as I can and laugh when others roll into my death trap, even when I have more of a killer's instinct than Naomi. Chapter 7. The next day, Pip was doing one final read-through of her information request to the Times version. was a Saturday, so she had to wait for the wait to begin. "Pips," came Victor's shout from downstairs. "Front door for you." With each step down the stairs, the air became a little fresher. From her bedroom's first run of hell heat into quite a bearable warmth. She took the turn after the stairs, as the sock skid across the oak, but stopped in her tracks when she saw Ravi sin outside the front door. He was being talked at enthusiastically by her dad. All the heat returned to her face. Hi," Pip said, walking towards them. But the fast tap-tap of claws on the wood grew behind her as Barney barged past and got there first, launching his muzzle into Ravi's groin. "No, Barney, down!" Pip shouted, rushing forward. "Sorry, he's a bit friendly." "That's no way to talk about your father," said Victor. Pip raised her eyebrows at him. Got it, he said, walking away and into the kitchen. Ravi bent down to stroke Barney, and Pip's ankles were fanned with the tail dog breeze. "How do you know where I live?" Pip asked. "I asked in the estate agents your mum works in." He straightened up. "Seriously, your house is a palace." "Well, the strange man who opened the door to you is a hotshot corporate lawyer. Not a kin. Only some days," she said. Pip noticed Ravi looking down, and though his lips twitching trying to contain it, he broke into a big smile. That's when she remembered that she was wearing baggy denim dungarees over a white t-shirt with the words "Talk nerdy to me" emblazoned across her chest. "So, what brings you here?" she said. Her stomach lurched, and only then did she realize she was nervous. I'm here because I wanted to say sorry." He looked at her with his big downturned eyes, his brows bunching over them. "I got angry and said some things I shouldn't have. I don't really think you're just some kid. Sorry." "It's okay," Pip said. "I'm sorry too. I didn't mean to step in and fight your battles for you. I just wanted to help. Just wanted her to know that what she did wasn't okay." But sometimes my mouth starts saying words without checking them with my brain first. "Oh, I don't know about that," he said. "That arsehole comment was pretty inspired." "You heard?" Feisty Pip was pretty loud. I've been told other kinds of Pip are pretty loud too. School quiz Pip and grammar police Pip among them. "So, are we okay?" "We're okay." He smiled and looked down at the dog again. "Me and your human are okay." "I was actually just about to head out on a dog walk. Do you want to come with?" "Yeah, sure," he said, ruffling Barney's ears. How could I say no to that handsome face? Pip almost said, "Oh please, you'll make me blush," but she bit it back. "Okay, I'll just grab my shoes. Barney, stay." Pip scooted into the kitchen. The back door was open and she could see her parents pottering around the flowers, and Josh, of course, playing with his football. "I'm taking Barnes. See you in a bit," she called outside, and her mum waved a gardening-gloved hand to let her know she heard. Pip slipped on her not allowed to be left in the kitchen trainers that were left in the kitchen and grabbed the dog lead on her way back to the front door. "Right, let's go," she said, clipping the lead to Barney's collar and shutting the front door behind them. At the end of her drive, they crossed the road and into the woods opposite. The stippled shade felt nice on Pip's hot face. She let Barney off the lead Sal was allergic though, that's why we never. Oh, she wasn't quite sure what else to say. There's this dog at the pub I work at, the owner's dog. She's a slobbery Great Dane called Peanut. I sometimes accidentally drop leftovers for her. Don't tell. I encourage accidental droppage, she said. Which pub do you work at? The George and Dragon over in Amersham. It's not what I want to do forever. Just saving up a bit so I can get myself as far away from Little Kilton as I can. Pip felt an unutterable sadness for him, then rising up her tightened throat. What do you want to do forever? He shrugged. I used to want to be a lawyer. Used to. She nudged him. I think you would be great at that. Not when the only GCSEs I got spell out the word dude. He'd said it like a joke, but she knew it wasn't. They both knew how awful school had been for Ravi after Andie and Sal died. Pip had even witnessed some of the worst of the bullying. His locker painted in red dripping letters like brother, and that snowy morning when 8-year-old boys had pinned him down and upturned 4 full bins over his head. She would never forget the look on 16-year-old Ravi's face. Never. That's when, with the clarity of cold slush pooling in her stomach, Pip realised where they were. Oh my God, she gasped, covering her face with her hands. I'm so sorry. I didn't even think. I completely forgot these are the woods where they found Sal. That's okay. He cut it off. Really, you can't help it that these happen to be the woods outside your house. Plus, there's nowhere in Kilton that doesn't remind me of him. Pip watched for a while as Barney dropped a stick at Ravi's feet, and Ravi raised his arm in mock throws, sending the dog backwards and forwards and back until he finally let go. They didn't speak for a while, but the silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was charged with the offcuts of whatever thoughts they were working on alone, and as it turned out, both their minds had wandered to the same place. I was wary of you when you first knocked on my door, Ravi said, but you really don't think Sal did it, do you? I just can't believe it, she said, stepping over an old fallen tree. My brain hasn't been able to leave it alone, so when this project thing came up at school, I jumped at the excuse to re-examine the case. It is the perfect excuse to hide behind, he said, nodding. I didn't have anything like that. What do you mean? She turned to him, fiddling with the lead round her neck. I tried to do what you're doing 3 years ago. My parents told me to leave it alone, that I was only going to make things harder for myself, but I just couldn't accept it. You tried to investigate. He gave her a mock salute, then barking, Yes, Sergeant, like he couldn't let himself be vulnerable. Couldn't let himself be serious long enough to expose a chink in his armour. But I didn't get anywhere, he carried on. I couldn't. I called Naomi Ward when she was at university, but she just cried and said she couldn't talk about it with me. Max Hastings and Jake Lawrence never replied to my messages. I tried contacting Andie's best friends, but they hung up as soon as I said who I was. Murderer's brother isn't the best intro. And, of course, Andie's family were out of the question. I was too close to the case. I knew it. I looked too much like my brother, too much like the murderer, and I didn't have the excuse of a school project to fall back on. I'm sorry, Pip said, wordless and embarrassed by the unfairness of it. He nudged her. It's good to not be alone in this for once. Go on, I want to hear your theories. He picked up Barney's stick, now foamy with dribble, and threw it into the trees. Pip hesitated. Go on, he smiled into his eyes, one eyebrow cocked. Was he testing her? Okay, I have 4 working theories, she said, the first time she'd actually given voice to them. Obviously, the path of least resistance is the accepted narrative of what happened, that Sal killed her and his guilt or fear of being caught led him to take his own life. The police would argue that the only reason there are gaps in the case are because Andie's body hasn't been recovered and Sal isn't alive to tell us how it happened. But my first theory, she said, holding up one finger, making sure it wasn't the squarey one, is that a third party killed Andie Bell, but Sal was somehow involved or implicated, such as an accessory after the fact. Again, his guilt leads him to suicide, and the evidence found on him implicates him as the perpetrator, even though he isn't the one who killed her. The actual killer is still at large. Yeah, I thought of that too. I still don't like it. Next. Theory number 2, she said. A third party killed Andie, and Sal had no involvement or awareness at all. His suicide days later wasn't motivated by a murderer's guilt, but maybe a multitude of factors, including the stress of his girlfriend's disappearance. The evidence found on him, the blood and the phone, have an entirely innocent explanation and are unrelated to the murder. Ravi nodded thoughtfully. I still don't think Sal would do that, but okay. Theory 3. Theory 3, Pip swallowed, her throat feeling dry and sticky. Andie is murdered by a third party on the Friday. The killer knows that Sal, as Andie's boyfriend, would make for the perfect suspect, especially as Sal seems to have no alibi for over 2 hours that night. The killer murders Sal and makes it look like a suicide. They plant the blood and the phone on his body to make him look guilty. It works just as they planned it. Ravi stopped walking for a moment. You think it's possible that Sal was actually murdered? She knew, looking into his sharpened eyes, that this was the answer he'd been looking for. I think it's a theoretical possibility, Pip nodded. Theory 4 is the most far-fetched of the lot. She took a large breath and did it in one. No one killed Andie Bell because she isn't dead. She faked her disappearance and then lured Sal out into the woods, murdered him and dressed it up as a suicide. She planted her own phone and blood on him so that everyone believed she was dead. Why would she do this? Maybe she needed to disappear for some reason. Maybe she feared for life and needed to make it look like she was already dead. Maybe she had an accomplice. They were quiet again, while Pip caught her breath and Ravi ticked over her answers. His upper lip puffed out in concentration. They had come to the end of the circuit round the woods. The bright, sun-stroked road was visible through the trees ahead. She called Barney over and put him on the lead. They crossed the road and wandered over to Pip's front door. There was an awkward moment of silence, and Pip wasn't sure whether she should invite him inside or not. He seemed to be waiting for something. So, Ravi said, scratching his head with one hand, the dogs with the other. The reason I came over is I want to make a deal with you. A deal? Yeah, I want in on this, he said, a small tremor in his voice. I never had a chance, but you actually might. You're an outsider to this case. sin. I can agree to that, she smiled, holding out her hand. Deal, he said, taking her hand in his warm, clammy one, although he forgot to shake it. Okay, I've got something for you. He reached into his back pocket and pulled out an old iPhone, cradled in his palm. I've actually already got one, thanks, Pip said. It's Sal's phone. Oh, dum dum dum. Okay, we'll leave it here at chapter 8. And I haven't got a bookmark yet, so please forgive me. There we go. Yeah, we'll carry on with chapter 8. I kind of hate to stop it here because it's just getting really, really juicy. But so is life. So what do you think so far? What do you think of our suspects? Do you think it's her best friend's sister? Do you think it's that horrible reporter? Or do you think it's Andie's father? Personally, at the moment, I think it's her friend's sister. I think it's Naomi. Love can make you do crazy things. And if she really loved Sal that much, she might have had something to do with Andie's disappearance. Or just maybe, she was actually in love with Andie and killed Andie in a jealous rage because Andie didn't reciprocate her feelings. Or maybe, just maybe, Sal actually did kill Andie because Andie did have feelings for Naomi. Ooh, maybe, just maybe. Or maybe. Or maybe, Naomi did kill Sal, like trying to protect Sal from something, and maybe it was just like a tragic accident. You know, maybe they were arguing over something and she killed him by accident or something like that, you know. But yeah, my money so far is on Naomi. And it's very suspicious that she was missing from Max's house for so long as well. So, yeah, if I was a gambler, I'd put a couple of pounds on her at the moment anyway. But yeah, tell me your theories in the comments. Who do you think is responsible for Andie's death so far? And I can't wait to film the next one for you. It's getting really, really exciting now. And I will say as well, Ravi seems like an absolute sweetheart. And if I was Pip, I would have shouted and screamed at that woman that worked in the grocery store as well. Yeah, if I saw her do that to him in the supermarket, I would have called her an arsehole as well. And I hope that Pip and Ravi get together in the end, or at least become best friends, which it kind of seems like they're already best friends at the moment anyway. So